This week, Elon Musk became the first trillionaire in human history. $100 A number so large, most calculators can't display it. And yet, there's something about his fortune that applies directly to your retirement. Not the size of it, the shape of it. I want to be upfront about something. This video isn't about how to become a trillionaire. It's not about Tesla stock or SpaceX or any of that. It's about one specific thing Elon Musk's fortune has in common with your retirement account. Something that most people at every level of wealth completely misunderstand. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why a man worth $1 trillion still can't simply cash out and live off the interest. And why that exact same problem, at a much smaller scale, might already be sitting in your portfolio. Let's get into it. Here's the part of this story that almost nobody talks about. Roughly 99% of Elon Musk's net worth isn't cash. It's not sitting in a bank account. It's shares of Tesla, SpaceX, and a handful of other companies. Numbers on a screen that represent ownership, not dollars he can spend. If Musk wanted to convert even 5% of that net worth into cash tomorrow, he couldn't just click sell. Selling that much stock at once would crash the price of the stock itself. The act of accessing the wealth would destroy a meaningful chunk of it. This is one of the strangest truths about extreme wealth. The number on the screen and the amount of cash you can actually access are two completely different things. Now, you might be thinking, sure, but that's a $1 trillion problem. I don't have that problem. Except you might. Just at a much smaller scale. And it might be the exact thing quietly shaping how secure, or insecure, your retirement feels. Let's bring this down to earth. Way down. Think about a retiree with a $900,000 net worth. On paper, that sounds like a solid retirement. But let's look at how that $900,000 is actually structured. $400,000 is home equity. $350,000 is in a traditional IRA, heavily weighted in a handful of stocks that have grown enormously over 20 years. And $150,000 is in cash and short-term accounts. That's $900,000 on paper. But only $150,000 of it is actually liquid. Money this person can access without selling something, triggering a tax event, or disrupting their living situation. Sound familiar? It's the same structure as Musk's fortune, just 6 zeros smaller. Most of the wealth is locked inside assets that are valuable, but not spendable without consequences. The house requires selling or borrowing against it. The IRA triggers ordinary income tax on every dollar withdrawn, and if it's concentrated in a few positions, selling a large chunk at once could mean realizing massive capital gains or pushing into a higher tax bracket in a single year. On paper, this retiree is worth $900,000. In practice, they're one emergency away from discovering how illiquid that number really is. This is the lesson hiding inside a $1 trillion headline. Net worth is not the same thing as financial flexibility, and the gap between those two numbers is where most retirement stress actually lives. Here's the question that actually matters in retirement. And it's almost never the one people ask. Not how much do I have, but how much of what I have can I actually turn into cash this month without creating a problem? This is why two retirees with the exact same net worth can have completely different retirements. One has $900,000 spread across liquid index funds in a brokerage account and a Roth IRA, and can access almost any portion of it within days, often with minimal tax consequences. The other has $900,000, same number, but it's locked into home equity, a concentrated stock position, and a traditional IRA that triggers tax with every withdrawal. Same net worth, completely different retirement. The first retiree sleeps well during a market downturn because they have liquid reserves to draw from. The second retiree feels trapped, watching their concentrated position swing wildly, afraid to sell because of the tax bill, and unable to access their home equity without a major life disruption. Elon Musk's $1 trillion and a retiree's $900,000 share the same underlying truth. The headline number tells you almost nothing about how secure that wealth actually feels day to day. So here's the practical takeaway. Before you retire, or if you're already retired, take an honest inventory. Not just what do I have, but what percentage of what I have could I access within 30 days without triggering a major tax event, a forced sale, or a disruption to my life. If that number is uncomfortably small relative to your total net worth, that's not a crisis, but it's information, and it's exactly the kind of information that should shape your next few years of planning, building liquidity deliberately before you need it under pressure. So, Elon Musk became a trillionaire this week, genuinely remarkable in its own way. But the headline number tells you almost nothing about what that wealth actually means for his day-to-day life, because the vast majority of it is locked inside assets he can't simply spend. And the same is true, at a completely different scale, for a lot of retirement portfolios. The number on the statement and the money you can actually use are not the same thing. And the gap between them is where financial stress quietly lives. Net worth tells you what you own. Liquidity tells you what you can actually do with it. In retirement, the second number matters more than the first. So here's a question for the comments. If you had to access 20% of your net worth in cash within 30 days, without selling your home, could you do it? Be honest. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by the answer. If this gave you something to think about, hit that like button. And subscribe if you want to keep thinking about retirement differently. New video every week. Take care of yourselves. See you in the next one.